Good evening, Poe people fans, and we are going to discuss the gold bug tonight. And hopefully everybody has read it or reread it. In my case, I ended up, instead of actually physically reading it, my book, I actually listened on my way home from work to a reading by Vincent Price. It's on YouTube. It's free. Highly recommend it. I told my husband before I came on here, I could listen to Vincent Price reading every single day of my life of something. And Will says yes. But Goldbug was published in June 21st, 1843, which Poe was at Fort Moultrie on Sullivan's Island, where the story takes place, in 1827 when he joined the army and was stationed at Fort Moultrie and he enlisted as Edgar Perry. He lied about his name. He kind of, lied about his age, just trying to, I guess, re-image himself at that point. He was a young man, 18, said he was 22. And so it's interesting thinking about how many years after he wrote The Gold Bug as to when he was there. And I've got some pictures that later on I can show y'all if you want to see them. When my husband and I visited Sullivan's Island and Charleston, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's really cool, and the island is filled with Poe stuff, and so which is really cool. And so my background is the Gold Bug mosaic at the entryway into Poe's Tavern at Sullivan's Island. Jeannie and I were working really hard to try to get someone that worked at Poe's Tavern to come on with us tonight. But they are like slammed in between several spring break seasons, like different ones from different schools. And so they couldn't work it out to come on this evening to talk about the island. And so what was really cool, though, is the general manager I spoke with, we said, we definitely need to collaborate later and do something together, because I think it would be interesting to hear, someone that is maybe native to the area to talk about it, and how many people come in that love Poe and that kind of thing. So, but anyway, all right. What did everybody think of the Gold Bug? Who wants to start? I'll start, but I was just giving everybody the opportunity. It is one of the stories that I read probably really within the last couple of years for the first time. I love it. I think it's a fun tale with the whole pirate lore and everything. And then again, visiting the island, it really kind of made a difference to me and kind of gave a connection. One of the things that I like is just, again, Poe's unnamed narrator, who seemed to be the doctor to William Legrand, the main character, looking for the treasure and everything. But I like the way the story was set up, and that he kind of goes, back explaining his whole process of the heat. And and this is something that I don't know if you guys noticed reading it. Poe actually says, and I'm going to actually pull up the exact quote. Give me just 1 second. He says, "At this stage of my reflections, I endeavored to remember, and did remember, with entire distinctness, every incident which occurred about the period in question. The weather was chilly, oh, rare and happy accident, and a fire was blazing upon the hearth." Anybody catch the little phrase I just used from his writing, which someone else coined and made famous?
Now I'm feeling stupid. Say it, Carmen.
Nope. Happy accident. Who do you think of? Happy accident, happy little accidents. Anybody?
Bob Ross.
Yes,
Bob
Bob
Ross.
Ross.
Oh, I
So
can see.
what's really interesting, and I know this is a little fun thing that I'm adding in right at the beginning of this of our talk. Um, I caught that before, but didn't even could just kind of put it out of my mind. And then when I was listening to Vincent Price say it, because the way Vincent Price said it, he goes, just his voice was like happy accident. It was just really kind of cute. And I was like, hold on a second. So I actually looked up to see who coined that phrase. How old is it? There is nothing I can find on the internet except for Bob Ross. And I'm like, okay, Bob Ross, if he, obviously he's passed away, but he didn't create it. Did Poe create it? So just he came up with, other words like tintinnabulation, things like that. So you just kind of wonder. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there as a fun little thing I noticed. What are any thoughts on that? Let's see. If any of you are familiar with the Tintin series, the books, The Secret Unicorn in Red, let me pull up the chat. I can't see the very bottom part.
Rackham.
Rackham. Okay. I am not. Will, do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, so Tintin is a famous Belgian cartoon character that's been around since the 20s, and basically he and his little dog Snowy go around the world on big adventures, and he is a reporter as his job, but he never really reports. And in The Secret Unicorn, his best friend Captain Haddock talks about his ancestor his ship getting run over by pirates, which is Red Rackham, and then the ship was blown up to kill the pirates, and he ended up on an island and stuff like that. And then in the modern day, they go out to find it using certain coded chart.
Oh, very cool. That is, I mean, almost like taking kind of like or paying homage to Poe with those stories. Definitely.
Yeah, I should probably look it up and see if there's any section on influence.
Yeah. I would be curious. I would definitely be curious if that was definitely a connection. That's really cool. One other thing that I thought, was interesting, like again, mentioning the unnamed narrator, but main character's name, William Legrand, and then his servant named Jupiter. And what I thought was really interesting is, thinking about Poe's characters in many stories, and I looked this up just to make sure I didn't miss anything. But Poe loved science, he loved space, things like that, exploration. And so I would thought, did he use more names of planets or celestial bodies or things like that? Because I thought of Pluto, the black cat, and the only two I really found was Jupiter and Pluto, which is kind of interesting, of largest planet to smallest planet. And I still do say Pluto is a planet, not a dwarf. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. But
Yeah.
Duet.
I was gonna say about the Jupiter thing. So correct me if I'm wrong, Carmen. I meant to look this up before we did this, but I didn't.
Yeah,
Doesn't he use the name Jupiter in another story as he was like a servant or a valet? Isn't it in like the How to Write a Blackwood article or something? There's
maybe.
another there's another time where he uses the same thing where it's like an African American type of servant with the same
Okay.
name. So I thought that I don't know which one, I know it's in one of them
I
because he has
think
several
you're
different
right.
versions of that have been edited where like they're parts like the story is chopped up in different like versions of it. But I know there's a repeat in the name Jupiter, and what I also thought was interesting about the story, and I know that Edgar Allan Poe had a lot of animals and liked a lot of animals,
Mm-hmm.
but the Newfoundland dog is actually, though it has a different name, it's Wolf in here and it's Tiger in the narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym,
Yeah,
excuse me, but they had the dog, the same type of dog, and that's a really
that's true.
specialized water dog.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting that like out of all the animals, it's not just they had a dog, it was a very specific dog. So it was kind of like a almost like a repeat of a dog. So I thought that for me, I've always thought it's kind of interesting.
That really is. And I was gonna say, I'm glad you mentioned that, Holly, because I read 2 chapters of Arthur Gordon Pym, and because Jeannie and I are working on something with that just down the road, and I haven't had time to read much more. But yeah, that's a really cool thing to point out. Definitely with the repeats of things. Um,
I have a question really quick.
yeah,
Do you know the reference at the beginning of the story, all in the wrong? What is all in the wrong?
that I don't know. I'm not 100% sure. Anybody else have an idea what that would be? I'm gonna flip back to it. Hold on, let me go back. Where, let's see. Oh, at the very, when he said at the very beginning, the quote before, what ho, this fellow is dancing mad. He hath been bitten by the tarantula. All in the wrong. I would have to look that up because I am not 100% sure. Because to me, the quote right there before the story begins goes to the gold bug, biting Legrand. And so that's a very good question. I was going to say, while we're talking, I can try to look that up because that's an interesting point. Any thoughts, Will, on what you think it means?
Well, it looks like All in the Wrong is a play, an English comedy.
Okay.
So maybe Poe saw that performed. I'm kind of Googling as we speak.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I'm
Yeah,
also
but
looking
it's a
that up.
Arthur Murphy wrote the play.
Okay. Let's see. I'm looking. Yeah, I don't really see. Nothing is coming up quickly for me about that. But yeah, I bet you it is. Oh, there's what? Remind us what your kitty's name is.
This is Elsa.
Okay. Hey, Elsa.
Cute
Cute.
name.
Very cute.
Thank you.
Yes, and that would make sense with, during that time frame, shows and with Poe's parents being actors and things like that. He had a um, respect for acting, even though a lot of people during that time did not think very highly of actors. And so I could see him, looking for those things to incorporate into his stories and things like that and quotes because he does have he adds quotes and things at the beginning of stories sometimes. So, but yeah, you kind of wonder, referencing that again, the tarantula to the gold bug, the biting, you kind of wonder, you know, at first when the story is when Jupiter is talking to the narrator about, you got to help him because he's gone mad and things like that. But he really wasn't. He was just very enthusiastic about finding this treasure. And so it could that be all in the wrong, that Jupiter was wrong, that he wasn't crazy from being bitten by the bug. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking on those lines. Definitely. One other thing I looked up with the cipher that he used was brilliant. I just in the way he like decoded it for the reader and everything. But I love the part where it's got the clue of the goat, the kid, with the death's head on the other side and the cipher in between, and the kid referencing Captain Kidd. And one of the things I looked up was just looking at what pirates were around that area. And Captain Kidd really was more northeast up near New York, Nova Scotia, and things like that, where he was doing all of his pirate stuff. And Blackbeard was more in the south and some other people too, but Blackbeard being the most well known. Any thoughts on the pirate, aspect of this?
It was Steve Bonnet was in Charleston,
Okay. Okay.
and my cat Pumpkin's up here.
Oh, Pumpkin.
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
My
cute.
the camera doesn't work, but Pumpkin's right here. Hi, Pumpkin.
Oh,
He's a
hey,
warm pup.
Pumpkin.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And I am not as familiar with Steve Bonnet as I am with some of the
Bonnet.
other
Yeah.
pirates. Yeah. Anything that you know more about him, Leela?
Well, he was like a gentleman. He was called the gentleman pirate.
Okay.
He had a successful life, but I guess he got bored, was unhappily married, and became a pirate. Of course, he ended up being hanged, naturally.
Yeah. Yeah, that they tended to have that happen. Definitely. That's an interesting story. I'm gonna have to look him up.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, yeah, I thought that was interesting that, because, Poe did study like classic literature and things like that and history. And so you wonder why he chose Captain Kidd. Did it work just for the way he wanted the cipher to go, or was there any other reason? Any thoughts on that? Anybody?
I mean, I'm from South Jersey. I know. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I've heard of Blackbeard. I've actually have heard of the Gentleman Pirate too. But I know like the South Coast, like where we are, like I've heard of Captain Kidd. So I was just when I had seen that in the story, I was like, oh, okay, well, I know of him, but I didn't really give it any more thought.
Yeah. And I haven't like I like pirate stuff and everything but I really haven't studied them like, other some other things in history. And so that's why I decided to look it up and just see more about Captain Kidd and everything. And so just found that interesting that he really wasn't in that area. But, you know, could it possibly be that he might have been during the time of the 16 and 1700s? One other thing I looked up, the area of Sullivan's Island wasn't really inhabited that much. And so who knows what really happened, if somebody did land and, on the shore or something like that. They may have not even known the people that were, in Charleston and things like that in the area. Um, and I can't remember what year Charleston became a city. I don't remember off the top of my head. But I also thought it was interesting too. At the very end, it's like, yeah, they really talk about the skeletons that were in the pit that they dug up that were buried with the treasure. And, they kind of ponder, was it Captain Kidd's assistants? And he wanted to make sure that nobody took off with the gold and the gems and things like that. And so I thought it was a really interesting ending talking about that. And did Poe kind of leave the story seeming like it was unfinished or open, like he could go back to it? What do y'all think about that? Any
For
thought?
me, I kind of figure it's like classic pirate. I mean, that traditionally,
Yeah.
like everyone knows, if you go to bury the treasure, you're not coming back. So
Yeah.
for me, I was like, yeah, like you probably shouldn't have volunteered for that task.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
but yeah, dead man tell no tales.
Right. Yes. Oh, I know. Um, yeah, in a way, I mean, I think the end of the story was very fitting, but at the same time, I was like, he kind of left this open in a way where he might could come back to it. I don't know, but
Yeah, it's
he
like the
never
other
did.
side of the story's not told. Like, it's like
Yeah.
it's up to our imagination. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Anybody else have any thoughts on all of that part of it or any other aspect of the story?
I guess what I liked about the story is the fact that the gold bug, which is entitled, it started this treasure chase of this hunt, really was just a coincidental type thing because it was actually just the paper that the gold bug got wrapped in when it bit him, Legrand,
Yeah.
That was actually the parchment with the treasure map. So I love the fact that the whole time he's like toying with the narrator with the gold bug tied to a string, and he's like teasing him, so everyone thinks he's crazy. And of course, like the first time I had read the story, I kept thinking like, okay, well, this bug, if it was, I was thinking Jupiter was like crazy and actually never actually really bit him. He just thought it did to
Yeah.
explain things. Then I'm like, well, if the bug is alive, it's a dead. What does the bug have to actually do with anything? And the funny thing at the end is it was just happenstance, totally coincidental, and I thought that was great.
Oh yeah, no, I like that part of it, Holly. I think that makes total sense. Micah says the Goonies should totally be in the sequel. I do agree, even grown up.
Goonies never
um,
say die.
that's right. That's right. And then Will said, "Am I right in believing that Poe was bipolar? I wonder if he wrote Goldbug during a high in his life, but then it was interrupted by a low, and he never got around to continuing it." Um, I don't, I have never found anything like about Poe being bipolar necessarily, but he did, struggle with his own demons and things of, with mental health and stuff. A lot of things weren't categorized back then medically. And so, it could have been because like 1843, I forget the year that Virginia started becoming sick off the top of my head. She died in 1847. It may have been around the time of 1845, so that would have been right before.
Yeah, I
Can
think it
you
was that. I
is
think it was
that
about 3 years before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the math. Yeah.
So, and then struggling with supporting his family and everything. He did struggle mentally with a lot of things. So, well, that could very possibly be. Absolutely. One other thing that I was going to bring up too was that there was a family that lived in Charleston at the time, and like, kind of tied into Sullivan's Island as well, that the man's name was Dr. Edmund Ravenel. And he was a scientist, a conchologist, which Poe later on, wrote with assistance with some other, research and things. The conchologists, I can't remember the exact title, but it was a book on shells. I actually have it. I haven't read it yet, but it's basically like a textbook on shells. But Dr. Edmund Ravenel, there is a possibility that Poe knew him. And if he did, it's very possible that with the science type things that he did, Dr. Ravenel, he could have shown him a couple of different types of beetles where Poe might have gotten this idea. There's the theory. This is just very much theory, possibility. This is not set in stone. This really happened. But some of the beetles that he could have shown him was just the click beetle, which has like weird markings on the back of its head that are black, and that's a beetle that's more well known. And then there is the scientific name, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, but Callichroma splendidum, and that particular beetle has green and gold hues. And so, Poe could have even just looked this up to find that himself, or just decided to make it up. I'm not real sure. But there's another story that goes with the Ravenel family, and it's Charleston holds on to this as kind of a Poe connection, I guess you will. Nothing has ever been proven, but Ravenel had a daughter, and they say that Poe got the inspiration for Annabel Lee from his daughter, and that she, because of Poe's status, he decided to just say, nope, you can't see her anymore. And she ended up dying. And there's a cemetery, I'm going to show you a picture of it, where it said she is buried, but there's no marked grave. So you have no idea where she's buried. So they're holding on, and her name was Anna. And so thus Annabel Lee. And when you look at when you're on the beach in the area of Sullivan's Island, you can kind of picture it in your mind. I mean, a lot of beaches do look alike, but just I don't know, it just felt very much like, the kingdom by the sea and things like that. And so, do y'all want to see the pictures?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of put um, some of the slides together so y'all could see them. Okay, let me launch this so you can get a better picture. Give me just 1 second. Okay, here we go. So again, that's the gold bug at the front entrance of the Post Tavern there. And then around the city, they have streets named after Poe tales. One is the gold bug.
That's a great picture.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so there the tree in the story is a tulip tree. This particular tree that there's a picture of is one that they say, and it's still like it's the base of it is huge. You just can't see it in the picture. But people say this is a possible location for the real gold bug tree that Poe wrote about when he, was on the island and kind of was, I guess, walking around or whatever. There's another picture of it.
So this is gonna sound so silly, Carmen.
No,
When he said tulip tree in the book, I actually assumed maybe because I'm on the East Coast that it was a tulip poplar tree. I've never even seen a tree like this before.
yeah, and these trees are quite common in South
Huh.
Carolina, and especially on the coast. And when my husband and I were driving around and looking for all the different post streets and everything, we found other trees that had, because it said that Jupiter had to climb several, like feet up before he got to any branches. Then going up to that seventh branch where the skull was, and we found other trees similar to this, but the branches were starting up higher. And so we wonder, what is the is this tree really there or not, the gold bug tree? But this is what they call this one. And one of the things that I did before we went here is there was a book called Poe Land by J.W. Ocker, and he has gone to all the different post sites and found all of these type of things, and he puts it in the book, so you literally don't even have to read the whole book when you're traveling. If you're going to Charleston, South Carolina, you can look at this chapter on Sullivan's Island and just read what you need, or take it with you like I did. And I was like looking at the book while my husband was driving around going, go this way. So, but then there's Raven, and the gold bug tree is around gold bug and Raven. So, and then Poe, of course. All right. And so then this is an old battery building that they kept around. And there's a library called Edgar Allan Poe Library. And they have a whole room with Poe stuff. And so I thought I'd show you some pictures. They have Poe on the windows and the bust of Pallas. This is leading up to an area of one of the beaches. And then this is what I mean by, you can just picture the kingdom by the sea, in my opinion. There, it's absolutely beautiful. And then this is Fort Moultrie, the front. That's just a really cool tunnel that you can kind of walk through and everything. And I just thought that was really neat at the fort. And then this area right here where the bricks are on the ground was the area for the barracks, and they got destroyed. I forget what happened. But basically that's Poe slept here. And so I thought y'all would find that kind of interesting. I thought that was really cool. And then that's the front of Poe's Tavern. And of course, yes, my husband and I match, and I make our stuff. And so, and he's good with it. Our Poe stuff. And then just inside. And you can kind of see they've got Poe stuff everywhere. The food and drinks are named after Poe, tales and poems and things. It's just really neat. This is the cemetery where the whole Anna Ravenel tale stems from. So that's it. But I wanted to share that with you guys.
Thank you. It was cool.
Oh, you're welcome. But
Wonderful photos.
oh, thank you. Thank you. Let's see. And then Micah says the library has no Longfellow or Shakespeare. That's very true. It's a small library, but just it was very quaint, very cute, and we actually went there first before we did all the other Poe stuff. And but highly recommend if you're ever able to go there. It's amazing. It really is. All right. What else? What else did y'all get out of this tale?
I thought it was interesting because, most writers, rely on their experiences. I did think it was interesting that Legrand started off from like a good family who happened to become poor, which has happened to the Poe's family with his grandfather giving the money to the army and whatnot that he never got back, military.
Yeah.
So like if he was kind of searching, the gold bug was like symbolic of him getting back into good standing, getting the money, getting his life back on track. So I kind of thought, maybe that was a little, kind of how he felt with his, like, hopefully his stories to help me get back on track. I mean, it probably is not what he was thinking, but I just kind of thought that was cool.
Yeah, but honestly, Holly, that is a good point. I mean, because that's all Poe wanted to do was be known as a writer and be respected for it and earn a living for it. So I think you may have a good grasp on Poe kind of putting his own, life in the story. Definitely. Let's see. Will says, has the gold bug come under any recent criticism for how Jupiter's dialogue was written? I wondered that myself. I have not looked up to see. It I could definitely see that being a possibility. Absolutely.
So
Um,
get your copies now.
yes, I mean, you know, because like to me, it reminded me of like reading Tom Sawyer or Huckleberry Finn and that kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know. They I know here in Tennessee they're banning lots of different books for these types of reasons. This is one I'm not sure of if they have, but it would not, or somebody out there. Um, I don't know. That's a valid point. Anything else y'all can think of that you liked, disliked?
I guess I like this, like the silliness of this skull being like anchored or nailed to the tree and through the eye. For me, I enjoyed the whole setup. Um, I definitely think this is a story that, once you read it, you get, at least for me personally, uh, you get more from it the first time around. It kind of has a setup very much to me, even though it's completely different storytelling, but it's kind of told in a manner like the oblong box. Like the first time if anybody's read that one, if you read it the first time, at least me, like I think I'm a semi-intelligent person, and I was like, I don't get it. How is this happening? Why can't I figure this out? Kind of like the pirate thing. It's kind of like, well, once you've read it and you know it, you
Yeah,
wish you could forget it so you could read it again.
yeah,
But I mean, I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the setup. I enjoyed like the reveal at the end. It was kind of like the how, when, who done it all at the end. I mean, I enjoyed the setup of it all.
yeah. Because I mean, this story is considered, mystery, adventure, science fiction. It's kind of a little bit of everything rolled into one. And to me, I consider it more of a adventure story, just with the pirate aspects and things like that. But yeah, I do like it. Let's see. Micah says, loved it, and yet another antecedent for Sherlock Holmes, The Adventure of the Dancing Men. I'm not sure if I've read that story, The Adventure of the Dancing Men. Has anybody else read that one? All right. What else? What else? Let's see. Oh, Holmes cracks a cryptogram very similar to the one on the gold bug. Okay, cool. Okay, very cool. I'm gonna have to check that one out. Again, I can't remember all the Sherlock Holmes stories I've read. Just there's a few that stick out. Jeannie and I talked about um, the Speckled Band because it's a locked room mystery, and that one comes to mind because it's more fresh. But yeah, and I love that Poe incorporated the cryptograms in here because it's I love cryptograms and ciphers and things like that, and just the brilliant work he did with creating it. And again, I've talked about this a minute ago, just how he showed how he Will Legrand decoded it, because it's like, where would you, like, if you saw that, where would you even start in today's world? I mean, I think most of us would possibly, I would try to figure out patterns, but also go type it in Google to see what might come up too.
Yeah, I'd be like the narrator. Yeah, I would never have found the goal. I'd just be like wandering and walking around the woods there.
Oh, but yeah, and then when they're doing the digging and they can't find it, and then it was like, oh, you put it in through the wrong eye of the skull. So I thought that was funny.
Oh yeah, and I like how the dog the whole time, because he's smarter than everybody, is like, "Hey guys, you're digging in the
Yes.
wrong area. I can like smell the bones here. Let me out."
Oh, I know. That was really funny. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so do you think that Poe might have wanted to come back and do a part 2 of this, or he meant to leave it that way? Just kind of with, who really is buried in this pit with the treasure. Because then
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
who may? I was just gonna
Oh,
say,
yeah.
for me, it was like I kind of like I already said. For me, it was a closed case. I mean,
Okay.
I would like to see. I would. I mean, I wish he would have wrote more and more stories, but for me, I enjoyed it. But I wouldn't mind some more like that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I also, on that note, my brain escapes me for just a second. But let's see. Let's see. Micah says there's a wonderful cryptogram website where you can practice with a new crypto quote every day. Oh, and thank you for sharing that, Micah. That's awesome. I'm definitely going to have to check that out. And then he says, I would totally see Goldbug 2, The Wrath of Kid. Oh, I love it. And so going into Star Trek nerddom, instead of Khan, it would be Kid. Sorry, I had to do that. Oh, but yeah, I don't know, because I mean, Poe loved these tales of thinking of like the balloon hoax and Hans Fall and things like that, these tales of adventure, and Gordon, Arthur Gordon Pym. It's like, I'm surprised he didn't write more of this. I mean, part of it was horror paid, and so that's what he had to do to make a living. But it would be so cool to have seen more stories like this. And then, like with those characters, they were dividing up the money. Did they stick to each other to where no one killed the other one for their money? Because a lot of pirate tales, those are types of things that happen.
Mutiny.
Yes, exactly. So I don't know. It's just really interesting. But I love that, there's a lot of history in this from, the island, and just the, post time there, and the elements that are there. I read one article that it was somebody that was kind of giving an opinion, and they thought that he described the island itself very, what's the word? Not so very nice. Just at the very beginning, when he's describing where everything is. And, but at that time, it wouldn't have looked like it does today.
Exactly.
All right. Anything else y'all can think of? Did you like thumbs up on this one, or do you like other areas of Poe better? What do
This
y'all
was
think?
fine. It was good.
Yeah. Micah's thumbs up. Will, what about you? I think he's typing. I like it. It's not my favorite, but I do like it. Let's see. I liked other stories better, but this was nice for a change of scene. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and
I
because
love pirates. You know what I mean? I'm one of those,
yeah.
I just imagine Johnny Depp. Sorry, guys.
Oh,
I
I'm
love pirates.
surprised they haven't had Johnny Depp play Poe. I mean, they could probably make
He would be a great Edgar Allan Poe, I think, for sure.
yeah. And there's
Because
the
Stallone wanted to play him. You know about that, right?
yes,
How
I do.
Stallone
And
really still wants to play him.
what's very ironic about that, when Jeff and I went to, it was called what was it called? Not Poe Speakeasy, but it was it was this Poe at this old home, this antebellum home here in town. This theater group did some reenactments of they kind of reimagined some of Poe's tales like as one story, and they acted it out. And the only problem I had with it was the sound quality wasn't good that night, and it was very hot. It was in the middle of the summer, but anyway, it was a neat experience. But we met a couple that used to work. He used to work in Hollywood and knows Clive Barker, and he was with Clive Barker on a call with Sylvester Stallone, and they were going to work something out to do a Poe tale, or what Stallone had bought the rights to. And when Stallone said, "I want to be Poe," he said, "Nope, we're done." And then they got off the Zoom call or whatever. And I
Yeah, because
thought that
there's
was
actually a picture. There's a picture floating around the internet, if you guys have seen, of him actually dressed up in like Victorian gear. But of course, this was when he was younger, but he was still like real muscular. So I
yeah.
mean, he definitely. I mean, yeah, maybe not for a serious Poe movie. I mean, he
Yeah.
didn't necessarily have the right look, but it was funny because he really wanted to play him. He paid to get his own like stills taken of him in Victorian like garb.
Interesting. Oh
So
wow.
yeah, you can find it online. It's funny.
That is really interesting. Yeah, because when we met these people, I was just like, okay, that is insane. That was the first time I'd heard of it. So this was last summer, actually. This was, I think, July or August. But yeah, and then Micah added Pirates of the Caribbean would be amazing. Yes, I love that. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. You have to put the pun in. Definitely put the pun. Well, I feel like we've really talked about everything that we can about the story. I think for the most part, everybody liked it. It was a nice change. And next month, May 30th, is going to be our next Poe Unplugged. So I hope everybody can join us. And hopefully, Jeannie will be back and feeling better. And we are going to be doing Annabelle Lee. We're going to move to a poem. And what is really cool, we have a poet who is joining us. Her name is Trisha Schufelt, and you can find her on Facebook and everything. And she's actually one of our guest judges for our poetry contest, Poet Like Poe. And she has some poems written that were influenced by Annabelle Lee and some other Poe tales and things. And then I don't think, do I have it right here? I do. And I have not read this yet, but this is The Ghosts of Nevermore. And this is one of her books. And so, but she's going to be joining us as a guest, and she's going to be reading some of her poetry, and we can kind of talk about it and everything. But I think you'll really enjoy listening to what she has to say, and then us talking about Annabelle Lee. It's one of mine and Jeannie, both of it's our favorite, probably our favorite, besides The Raven, of the poems. So, but yeah, but if you know any, you guys, and actually Holly is one of our guest judges too for the poetry contest. And so if you know anybody who loves to write poetry and wants to write it like Poe, poet like Poe, please encourage them to go to our website and submit an entry. We have a youth category, we have an adult category, there are prizes. And so we welcome everybody to do that. And trying to think of anything else. I think that's kind of all the Poe stuff going on. Yeah, Will, go ahead.
I just had an idea. So I write poetry myself, but I had this idea where I would find some famous poem and I'd go out to a area near my house that's sort of similar to where the poem takes place, like, you know, Rack Up the Hesperus. I might read it out at the beach or something like that. Right. So I was thinking my dad's house has a lot of raven visitors.
Oh,
So next time I'm there, I'll read The Raven to my family while the ravens are behind us, you know, wanting to, you know, have scraps of food.
oh, that is
That's so
cool.
cool.
Oh,
That's
that is
so
so
cool.
yeah, you need to
Yeah.
record that, especially because if they're, you know, making noises and things like that, that would be fantastic.
If
Very,
I do it, yeah, if I do it, I'll film it and I'll share it with you guys.
yeah, we
That's
love
so
it. Oh,
awesome.
we'd
Yeah,
absolutely
definitely.
love it. That would be so cool. Yeah, but yeah, Will, if I was gonna say if you write poetry, please send an entry in. We've gotten several so far, and it's through May 28th to submit, so you've got plenty of time. And then if anybody else knows anybody, please, you know, have them submit. So, but yeah, and so Michael says, thank you again for doing this. So good to see everyone. Yes, it was very good to see everybody and hear from everybody. Um, and please join us next month for Annabelle Lee. And Will says this is always a blast. Yes, I look forward to this every month, and I'm so glad we're kind of doing it the last Tuesday kind of every month, because it's like, ooh, can't wait till the end of the month. So, and what's really cool is May 30th, I will be out for summer for school. So we finish May 24th or 25th. But yeah, so summer off. So it's exciting. But all right. Anybody else have anything to add? All right. Well, thank you guys again, and we will see you next month.
See you next month.
Thank you,
All right.
Carmen. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
All right.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Bye.
Goodbye.